London today is the European Union's biggest city and one of the world's most important economic centers. Tourists and residents of all nationalities walk its streets each day. It's a cosmopolitan city and surprisingly diverse. It's not difficult to find delicacies from all over the world, while at the same time, the interest in Spanish cuisine and food products has been increasing greatly over the past years. The fascination the consumer and the British press have for everything Spanish has grown together with a rising presence of restaurants, shops, and bars where one can buy and savor high-quality Spanish foods and wines.
In London, where you can find absolutely every single restaurant from every single country in the world, Spain was missing until very recently. We had some tapas bars that were started by foreign investors, not knowing very much what they were doing. Then, of course, about maybe 8-9 years ago, some people who knew a little more started in a very timid way importing products and also opening other type of restaurants, which they were, again, tapas bars, but perhaps with something different. It was a little more modern. They were using very good ingredient, and that was the key. And then they realized that if they have authentic Spanish ingredients, they could do very good Spanish food. And 2 or 3 years ago, the explosion. Then, of course, investors realized that they could make money with the Spanish food if they did it properly. Because the only thing they had to do is to go back to Spain, have a good look at all the different restaurants we do, the different ways that we eat, how we eat, and then reproduce it well in this market.
España es un país con sol, con mar, con huerta, con mucha cultura, y eso hace que tengamos un potencial terrible. Eso si lo unimos a una explosión de creatividad, de un par de generaciones de cocineros magníficos que se juntaron, ¿no? de una manera espontánea, porque esto al final no puede estar orquestado, sino que surge, ¿no? Creo que unido lo bueno que tenemos con la creatividad de cocineros importantísimos ha hecho que la cocina española esté donde está, ¿no? Es un país referente, ¿no? Y creo que aquí hay un público muy interesado en saber lo que nosotros hacemos.
I'm not sure precisely what the quantitative rise in tapas bars and sherry bars in London has been over the last 2 years, but it's probably been tenfold at least. And there's another one opened just yesterday, and more of them are places where people are going in, tasting, and I think what Spanish food is doing very well is that a lot of it is available to buy retail. So people are going in, having something good, a ración or something, and then walking out with a tin of sardines and a tin of anchovies and some manchego cheese. So it's not just Britain, it's everywhere that is fascinated by Spanish food at the moment.
Food and drink make a perfect tandem. Spanish wine has held a presence in the British market for decades and today is one of the most renowned and appreciated. It's not only sherries or riojas, but also whites, reds, rosés, and sparkling wines that have become very popular. The high-quality image associated with these wines also promotes the Made in Spain gastronomic experience.
Wine has a role to play, definitely. People feel good about Spain, they feel good about Rioja, so I think, yeah, it's a potential driver. Tapas absolutely fits with the mood of the moment. In English, people sometimes talk about grazing, and the idea of grazing is just snacking here and there, which is exactly what tapas is. I think the challenge in the UK is in urban centres, you need a concentration of places to do that. People still will go to a tapas bar for the evening, whereas in Spain, you'd go from one to another, to another, to another. In the last few years, we've seen new places that are more ambitious, sometimes run by English people, sometimes run by Spanish people, and I think that's really exciting.
Spanish gastronomy and products are more and more within the reach of both the specialized press and the consumer. London hosts restaurants aimed at all kinds of business formulas. Spanish entrepreneurial, mixed investment, Spanish chefs, sponsored by British investors and international venture capital. One of the examples with the most history is Brindisa. After living 3 years in Barcelona, Monica Linton decided to bring the best of Spanish products to London. She began as a wholesale importer of Spanish products more than 20 years ago, and today also has shops and restaurants in Borough Market, London Bridge, South Kensington, and Soho.
When we started was about 24 years ago, and if you remember, Spain wasn't a member of the community, EU, at that time. So people's acquaintance with Spanish food was very, very, very limited. It was limited mainly to beach holidays. So in those 24 years, people have learnt an awful lot. It's taken probably 10 to 15 years for people to really take an interest seriously. And now in the last 8 years, the interest is really, really serious.
One sign of growing Spanish presence in London is the success of Brindisa's original business formula in its Borough Market shop. The London public can sample this new market concept by tasting not only Iberico ham and other delicacies, but also their star product, chorizo.
In Britain, really, the culture of eating indoors and locking yourself into a pub for the evening is how it used to be. And now the permissions by the local councils and so on allow people to eat outside, which is much more compatible with Spanish food. So although the markets have grown maybe in a touristy way, you could say, it's actually a lot to do with eating out and being a little bit more informal about food and enjoying it in a very different way to how we have done traditionally in Britain.
Camio de Tercio is one of the pioneers among Spanish restaurants in the British capital. Modern Spanish cuisine based on quality products, all from Spain, in a place infused with the tradition of bullfighting. Hidden behind the scenes here is an inspiring story, one that began 20 years ago and has become a business that now has 4 restaurants to its name. It has been a self-made trajectory under the management of Abel Lusa.
Empezamos de la nada, como yo tenía 25 años, mi socio entonces tenía 26 años, empezamos con toda la ilusión del mundo, pero obviamente, pues sí, habíamos estudiado, habíamos trabajado en hostelería, pero no sabíamos hasta qué punto, por ejemplo, la prensa especializada es importante en Londres. En España yo creo que no tanto. Empezamos muy poquito a poco, sin un duro, y compramos toda la cocina de segunda mano en una historia un poco muy rocambolesca, pero que hoy, puesta la vista atrás, dices, qué bien lo hicimos, porque obviamente no teníamos dinero, pero eso no, fuimos al banco, no nos dieron préstamo, eso tampoco no nos desanimó, y pues con el poco dinero que teníamos sabíamos que para lo que nos llegaba, pues eso había que utilizar. Empezamos muy básico, las tapas más básicas españolas, lo mejor que las podíamos hacer, pero el que llegaba aquí a cenar una vez ya se hacía amigo de la casa.
Cuisine based on products and traditional recipes such as Iberico ham, croquettes, suckling pig, and fried squid, which are combined with culinary innovations such as changuro ravioli, caramelized oxtail stew, or acorn-fed pork chops with chorizo puree. In short, fine cuisine complemented by the other restaurants from the group, each offering a different proposition. In addition to the modern cuisine at Camio de Tercio, the other restaurants in the group are Tendido Cero, just opposite, which is a tapas restaurant, and Capote y Toros, a sherry bar with a list of 110 different sherries that are accompanied by cured Iberico ham and other tapas based on wines from Jerez. Another is Tendido Cuatro, which specializes in rice dishes, bullfighting-related names for bullfighting-themed venues.
Todos nuestros locales están de algún modo vinculados tanto a la decoración, sin caer en la decoración cliché, tanto en la decoración como en los nombres, con el mundo taurino. El mundo taurino a mí me encanta y el mundo taurino es un arte. Todos los grandes artistas de cualquier sitio del mundo miran a Andalucía y miran nuestra cultura y nuestro flamenco y los toros, por ejemplo, pero no lo miran desde como algo viejo, pasado de moda, sino como algo cultural, y que yo creo que el mundo del toro y el mundo de la música española puede ser una cosa muy moderna también.
There are many examples of Spanish gastronomy in London. The restaurant Fino is the story of Sam and Eddie Hart, two British brothers who have spent their holidays in Mallorca since they were children. It was their mother, a lover of Spanish gastronomy, who taught them how to cook. Today they have two restaurants, two very different propositions.
I was living in Barcelona at the time, between jobs, so I was doing a lot of shopping in the Boqueria market and cooking Spanish ingredients, wondering what to do next. And actually I came across a restaurant called Cal Pep, which I just loved. I fell in love with immediately, and really felt that there was a huge gap in the market for tapas in London. So I spoke to my brother, who has been working in restaurants much more than I had, and put to him the proposition of opening a Spanish restaurant, a tapas restaurant specifically, in London. And there were very, very few good Spanish restaurants around. And the sort of food that we wanted to do, which was ingredients driven, so taking great ingredients, cooking them quite simply, in that rather traditional, traditional Spanish style, I suppose. Was a style of food that we felt would appeal to everyone. They didn't have to know about Spanish food or have a fondness for it. And so we just felt that there was this huge gap in the market, the potential for someone to do Spanish food at a high level.
The kitchen at Fino and Barrafina is managed by Spanish chef Nieves Barragan, and they are specialists in seafood and tapas, with a dash of traditional Spanish cuisine. Their customers represent a clientele that is becoming more and more expert when it comes to enjoying fine cuisine in casual surroundings.
Everyone now is much more interested in what they're eating, whether it's Spanish or Italian or Indian or whatever it might be, than they used to be 10 years ago. So there's a real interest in the provenance of ingredients, of new styles of cooking, of new things. And people read a lot in the newspapers, watch a lot of television, where there's been a lot of food programs. So the English public are much more curious about food than they ever were. The most room, in my opinion, for growth is medium-priced restaurants serving, good quality food in an informal and relaxed surroundings. So I would be very nervous at doing, 2 Michelin star Spanish food, because I think that area in London is much more difficult and has much less room for growth. But where there's huge opportunity for growth. The English eat out more and more every year, but they're not eating out more and more in fine dining restaurants. They're eating out more and more in very good quality, mid-priced restaurants, and I think that's the area of real growth.
Our next stop is Iberica Food and Culture, a young company that opened its first restaurant in London 3 years ago. They have just opened a second establishment at Canary Wharf.
There was already an understanding that Spanish gastronomy was reaching a certain level. Ferran Adrià and all the other Spanish chefs were in the media everywhere. You also have to understand that the UK is the main visitor of Spain. There is a lot of people that now go into the inside of Spain, go to the paradores, and experiment the more gastronomic and cultural Spain. So the actual market was there. The reception, again, is slow, because a restaurant, however fashionable the food may be, has to also gain its public through doing a good job. We were a young company, mistakes were made, and then slowly we were gaining public. But I can't say that it was difficult for us to gain public in the moment we were doing things as we should. Also having someone like Nacho working with us and being a partner in this company helps a lot in bringing the public, because what we put on the plate in the mouths of the client is good.
Nacho Manzano, a 2-star Michelin chef, is behind what Iberica has to offer. He is a highly creative chef producing a cuisine based on the concept of top-quality tapas and products from every corner of Spain.
Tenemos un pequeño acento asturiano, que no queremos hacer un restaurante asturiano, sino es un restaurante español. Entonces hay platos, por ejemplo, pues como un pollo que nos los cría aquí un granjero para nosotros expresamente, una croqueta maravillosa, porque aquí en Londres hay unos productos lácteos importantísimos, de muchísima calidad, ¿no? Son platos que ya son como un poco estandartes de lo que es la cocina de Ibérica, ¿no? Pero bueno, también hacemos gazpachos maravillosos, arroces. Intentamos reflejar un poco lo que es España, y no olvidarnos Las legumbres también, que yo quiero ahora hacerles una importancia que tienen, porque son muy saludables, muy buenas, y la cuchara pues es una de las señas de identidad de nuestra gastronomía.
Something else that is different about Iberica is the way it runs as a business, in that it has substantial support from investors.
We've got English investors, and we are in talks with hedge funds and venture capital funds at this moment. I don't think that that's solely on them investing in Spanish gastronomy. I think you've got a mix there. Spanish gastronomy is a growing market, and then for any investor, seeing a growing market is a good market to be in. But I think that also the operators doing Spanish restaurants in the UK now are more business-like. So they're more serious in their approach to the hospitality restaurant industry. The most important thing is that you have to come with a very clear idea, with obviously the required finance for it, because it's not a cheap city to open a restaurant at certain levels. And then it's working hard.
Omar Alaboy is determined to break the mold with his Tapas Revolution. This affable Spanish chef invites Londoners to sit at his bar and sample tapas. Spanish gastronomy has also found a place in shopping centres like Westfield, London.
I was coming from Spain, 21 years. I knew quite a lot of Spanish cuisine. I wanted to open my mind. But 2 years after, spent a great time, I started to realize that Spanish cuisine was misrepresented, and I thought there was something to do about it. So that's when I started my own little campaign, trying to promote real Spanish food in any way possible. That's what I call a Tapas Revolution. So whether I was making videos or writing recipes for the website, or any way which was spreading the word of good Spanish food, that's all the spirit that Tapas Revolution was about.
The location of this tapas bar is not a random choice. It's a tapas bar concept as envisioned by Omar Alaboy, a concept that is designed for places such as this.
When I started Tapas Revolution, I didn't know very well where I wanted to go with it, but I knew it needed to be in a very busy environment, because I wanted to spread the word to as many people as possible. And one of that environments are airports, shopping centers, train stations, where it ticks all the boxes. People in these environments want something quick, affordable, and tasty. They want a smile, they want Spanish hospitality, and that's what tapas is about, whether you want a little or a bit more, affordable and good quality. And that's all we have offered, and that's why we are so welcomed by people in this environment.
Without a doubt, the restaurants specializing in Spanish gastronomy are glorying in the quality of such products. Different business prototypes with British or Spanish investors behind them are making it easier to bring Spanish products within easy reach of London. It's an easy, everyday experience. You can savor a Valencian paella made on the spot, right in the heart of Portobello Market. And why not pass by Notting Hill for some typical ingredients from the Garcia supermarket, for that special evening with a Spanish flavor in your own home. It's clearer than ever that Spanish food and gastronomy have found a place in London, but still, there's so much more to enjoy.
There is a real argument that Spanish gastronomy will continue to grow, over the next 20 years. I mean, it's so far off the level that it could be.
The restaurants, the environment, all Spanish. The football, the arts, the culture, the fashion, the style. There is something going on in the air that you can feel people love more and more whatever is Spanish.
This is just the beginning of what Spain can do in the UK market, particularly in London. The only thing we need to do is to listen and to evolve, but also to remain traditional and faithful to the things that we know to do so well, and we do better than anybody else. But also we have to encourage other people, other chefs, to cook with Spanish products. Because at the same time, the more Spanish products we will have here, the more good Spanish food will be cooked, and the investment will be absolutely secure for a long time.